Okay, so I'm here today to talk to you about your chart of accounts in the accounting software. So we're going to give you like a brief overview of a basic way to set up your chart of accounts that can give you a little bit more organization, a little more structure and concise layout that's a little bit easier for reading from an accounting perspective. So once you have your business set up in the software, you want to go to your settings tab, click on your chart of accounts, and you'll see the basic layout that you get from the accounting software. So this is the default layout. It has the balance sheet on the left with your assets, liabilities, and equity, and then your profit and loss statement on the right with income and expenses. They provide a lot of expense accounts that are commonly seen in most businesses. But as we go through this, I want you to remember that things should be tailored toward your business, the needs of your business, the legal requirements of your business, and take that into account when you're setting up your chart of accounts. So what we're going to do to begin to adjust to a more concise layout, we're going to add and define some groups, and we'll start with the balance sheet section. So we're going to start with the assets, and we're going to add a sub account that is common in your assets account, and that is current assets. Now we can give this a code. What the code does is it organizes it underneath of your assets account. So if you want your current assets at the top, you give it number 1. So we're going to group this to our assets, create. So now you have your main top level account as assets, and you have a sub account, current assets, with the code 1 to be at the top. Now we'll add a liabilities account as well. We'll go long-term liabilities. Now I would usually want this after short-term liabilities, so let's code it number 2. Just so if we add in short-term liabilities later, it'll be underneath. So this one will be grouped to your liabilities account, create. There we go. So now we have our assets account with current assets, our liabilities account with our long-term liabilities account underneath. And now we'll move over to our profit and loss statement before we jump back to the balance sheet later. So a couple things that I want to do first. I want to edit the income, change it to operating income. Leave the code as 1 because you want your income at the top. The group will be uncategorized because it is a main or top level group. So we'll leave that as 1. Now, we're going to edit the expenses account as well. I'm going to change that to operating expenses. And I'm going to change the code to 3, and you'll see why in a second. So you see how this expenses box is checked here, and it shows up with the less before the name. So if it wasn't checked, it would just be operating expenses, wouldn't be group 2 expenses, and it's an uncategorized, so it's a main top level account. So we want to make sure all of our main accounts that are dealing with expenses have this box checked. Coded to 3. Update. Okay, perfect. So now I want to add another important group for the profit and loss statement. That's going to be our cost of goods sold. Now I want this to be after income and before our operating expenses, so I'm going to code it with a 2. It's an expense account, so we click the box and leave the group uncategorized because this is another top level main account. So create. Now we have our operating income here, less cost of goods sold. Now I want to add something else here. I want to add our gross operating profit. So what I'm going to do first is edit this to change it to 4 because we need one more account before this. So now I'm going to add another group. I'm sorry, I'm not going to add another group. I'm going to add a total. So our first total is going to be our gross operating profit. Now our code is going to be 3. Create. Now we'll end up with our first total. So our gross operating profit is going to be our operating income less our cost of goods sold. We have them coded correctly. Now our less operating expenses, we're going to put another total at the end here. So our new total is going to be our net operating profit or loss. And again, these can be tailored to however you like your account set up, however is easy for you. Legal requirements from your business may tailor some of the accounts to be set up a certain way. This is just an example of a pretty decent way to set up your accounts. We're going to code that 5, so that's going to be the end. Got our net operating profit and loss is our gross operating profit less our operating expenses. There we go. Now I want to show how to add, say we want to add another sub account in our long-term liabilities account. So maybe a mortgage account. So we're going to add account instead of new group. We're going to add new account. So go to new account and we're going to go mortgage account. And you can code it if you want. Don't have to. Now, the group is not going to be uncategorized. The group is going to be liabilities, long-term liabilities. Okay, create. Now you see it here underneath of our long-term liabilities. Now we can do the same for our current assets. We can add an accounts receivable account underneath our current assets. We can add more expenses. If there's a specific expense that your business uses often, you can add it here. So you just go to new account here on your profit and loss statement, and the same thing will happen. So that's a brief overview of how to set up a more concise layout, given the default layout from the accounting software. So you have a lot of free range ability here. You can edit a lot of your expense accounts. You can edit all the things that you create. And so now we'll take a look at the summary to finish off. And you'll see the assets, less liabilities, equity. So all the things that we added are all here, and they're in our order of our codes, which helps for some organization, some structure, and just easier to read and operate your business. So that's the first step after setting up your business in the accounting software. Is get your chart of accounts situated so that there's more organization. Again, this is going to be tailored toward your business, and you want to just use this as a guide to adding groups, adding new accounts, and just kind of getting familiar with the software.